We're going to talk about Lewis and Clark expedition goals. As we learned, Thomas Jefferson hires Meriwether Lewis to lead the expedition. From there, Lewis hired Clark, and from there, they hired the other men. The expedition was more than just exploration. Thomas Jefferson had some very specific objectives or goals he wanted these men to accomplish. The first and most important goal was to find a direct water route to the Pacific Ocean. In other words, they were leaving from the Mississippi River. They wanted to find another river, another body of water that connected the Mississippi River with the Pacific Ocean. That way, you could take a boat and go all the way from the Mississippi, from the middle of the country, to the West Coast and the Pacific Ocean. Did they accomplish this? Why or why not? The answer is no, and I'll explain. So, this is a map of the expedition. So, they leave St. Louis in spring of 1804. They travel up the Missouri River, and they made it, I'm guessing 1,500 miles. And eventually, though, the Missouri River runs into the Rocky Mountains. This is the start up here of the Missouri River. So at this point, they can't go any further in their boats because they've run into mountains. From there, they travel, 50, 60 miles across the mountains. They find another river moving west, which was the Columbia River. At that point, they made new boats and they traveled down to the West Coast. So, did they find a direct water route? No, they didn't. But a direct water route does not exist because of the Rocky Mountains blocking their path. In addition to that, there were other goals of the expedition. And what I've done with this is I've taken journal entries from Lewis and Clark. Both men kept really, really detailed journals throughout their journey over the 2.5 years. So from this, I know we can't read it all, but we see what appears to be some Native Americans. So the goal of this expedition was to learn about and make peaceful contact with Native Americans. This was the thing Jefferson was worried about the most. You read this in the Jefferson letter. They knew they were going to encounter a lot of Native Americans, and they wanted to make sure it was peaceful encounters so everyone returned safely. And as mentioned, they will encounter nearly 50 different tribes. And for the most part, there were a couple of instances where it wasn't so peaceful and there was a lot of tension and it could have gone bad. But for the most part, they did a great job with that. I'm going to skip through this. So then we have this other journal entry. This is from Clark. And what we have here is a map. It says, I know it's hard to read, it says Great Falls of the Columbia River. So goal number 2 is to create maps and research the geographical features of the land that they're crossing. So they're leaving hoping to find a water route. If a water route did exist, which it didn't, but if it did, what they're hoping is to create maps so people can use that in the future. And this was kind of Clark's area of expertise. So this is a map, and he knew what he was doing. Everything's to scale here. He wasn't just saying, oh, I think the river goes this way. I'm going to draw this line. He had the instruments and the tools to make accurate maps. The final additional goal of the expedition, we see obviously some sort of bird. This is Lewis that wrote all of this. He was kind of the biologist of the trip, and the goal was to collect plant and animal specimens to study. They knew they were going to encounter plants and animals that no one had ever seen before, at least white Americans had never seen, and to research that and to collect those.